Welcome to FSL 101. This is your introduction to your experience as a fraternity or sorority member and as a member of our community. This presentation is to provide you with an overview of your duties as a member of the FSL community at UAB.
Here are our FSL advisors. We are here to assist you with all things related to FSL and your governing council. My name is Stacy Rowan and I am your assistant director. I directly advise Panhellenic and MGC councils.
My name is Jacob Heath and I am your coordinator. I directly advise MPHC, IFC, and the Order of Omega Honor Society.
Just like your organization and UAB, fraternity and sorority life also has their own values. We expect all organizations and individual members to live these values to the best of their ability. Each month, your chapter leaders will submit a report to FSL staff which outlines how they have demonstrated these values throughout the last month. We encourage all chapters to provide a well-rounded experience for all of our members. These can be achieved through hosting and attending a variety of events, such as brotherhood or sisterhood events, philanthropy and service events, risk management trainings, and leadership development experiences. You can help us live out these events by attending the different events your organization hosts or attends.
On UAB's campus, we have 4 governing councils. All social fraternities and sororities must be affiliated with a UAB-sponsored governing council in order to maintain university recognition. In alphabetical order, we have the College Panhellenic Council, which houses 6 sororities. In the Interfraternity Council, or IFC, we have 7 fraternities. Next is the Multicultural Greek Council, or MGC, which has 2 sororities and 1 fraternity, all along with 2 interest groups. And then finally, the National Panhellenic Council, or NPHC, houses 4 fraternities and 4 fraternities. We'll discuss the organizations within these councils in the next slides.
The first council we'll discuss is the College Panhellenic Council, or Panhellenic. There are 6 sororities in this council. They are Alpha Gamma Delta, or Alpha Gam, Alpha Omicron Pi, or AO Pi, Alpha Z Delta, Alpha Z, or AZD, Delta Gamma, or DG, Kappa Delta, or KD, and Sigma Kappa, or SK.
Next up, we have IFC. In this council, we have 7 fraternities. There are Alpha Sigma Phi, or Alpha Sig, Alpha Tau Omega, or ATO, Delta Sigma Phi, or Delta Sig, Phi Gamma Delta, also known as Fiji or Phi Gam, Pi Kappa Phi, also known as Pi Cap, Sigma Chi, and Theta Chi.
Our next council is MGC. This is our first council with mixed fraternities and sororities. There are currently 2 sororities and 1 fraternity officially. First up, we have Delta Epsilon Psi Fraternity Incorporated, or DPsi, Sigma Lambda Gamma National Sorority Incorporated, or Gamma or SLG, and Sigma Sigma Rho Sorority Incorporated, or Sig Sig or SSR. We also have 2 groups that are currently designated as interest groups. Our National Asian Interest Sorority Interest Group is known as Lotus, and our National Latino Multicultural Fraternity is known as Hermanos Unidos. They are currently designated as interest groups while they build up their membership and structure. Once they achieve certain milestones, they will be able to officially say to the world which national organization they are affiliated with. Until then, they are our interest groups.
And last but not least, we have NPHC. You may have heard this council referred to as the Divine Nine. This council houses our Black African American founded organizations, and we have 8 of the 9 organizations in the council at UAB. Those organizations are Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, or Alpha, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, or AKA, Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, or Kappa, Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, or Omega, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, or Delta, Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, or Sigma, Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, or Zeta, and Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated, or SG Rho.
One of your first responsibilities as an interest or a new member is to recognize hazing actions. Hazing happens in many forms, and they are not actions we condone within the FSL community here at UAB.
First, let's review the Alabama hazing law. We pulled out some of the most important pieces of the law for us to focus on. The top box indicates that hazing can occur when you encourage, aid, or assist any other person thus offending, which means that you don't actually have to be the person doing the hazing to be in violation of the Alabama hazing law. So, if you are doing something like handing the person hazing items, cheering them on, or assisting them in any way, you are also violating the Alabama hazing law. Next, the law says that this can happen on or off school or university premises. So you can be in violation of the law if you are committing an act of hazing, no matter the location. Finally, the last part. If acting alone or with others, which means it can be a group of people hazing others or it can be one person.
Next, we'll talk about the UAB hazing policy. Again, there are some pieces pulled out to draw your attention there. The first portion says that an individual student who is in violation of the hazing policy may be disciplined according to UAB's procedures. So, not only can your organization be found in violation of the policy, but so can individuals. The second part is similar to the Alabama law about one individual or multiple. It can be the whole organization, just a few people, or only one person. The last part is important. A person is in violation of this policy if they either require or compel. What this means is that what someone says doesn't have to be, if you don't do this, you'll get kicked out of the organization. But it could sound more like it would make all of the members really happy if you would do this. What happens here is even though there isn't a specific directive and punishment, that phrase compels someone because there is an implied consequence. Because of the power dynamics that exist in fraternities and sororities between active and new members or interests, the new members or interests will feel compelled to complete whatever task is asked of them.
These next two slides are examples of how hazing can occur and some of the more common instances you might hear about or potentially experience. Please note that these examples are not all inclusive and hazing can take many forms. So, what is considered hazing? Actions that interfere with the academic process. Your organization should not prohibit you from participating fully in your academic experience. This means going to class, having enough time to complete assignments, and supporting you academically. Causes a member to violate UAB Student Code of Conduct policies and local and state laws. No organization should encourage any of their members to be violating any policies or laws or requiring them to do any actions that will lead them to violate policies or laws. Requires or pressures a member to consume or ingest alcohol, food items, non-food items, or liquids. You should not be asked or compelled to ingest anything. This does not just include alcohol, but also includes other items that could be gross or dangerous. Prevents a member from securing normal amounts of sleep. All human beings need to sleep. No organization should have meetings or events that go late and then also require you to be at early morning events, or don't excuse you from late events when you have an early morning commitment. Sleep deprivation from hazing has unfortunately led to many tragic consequences. Requires a member to perform personal services for any member, regardless of membership status. This situation may occur if a member is asked to clean the house or apartment of older members, buy them dinner, or do their laundry. One thing to remember is that hazing can happen to anyone, not just new members or interests. For example, an active member may be hazed if they are required to be a designated driver for other members as a consequence of an action the fraternity deemed out of line. Is sadistic. Treats a member in a subhuman manner. All new members and interests are human beings and deserve to be treated with respect. Is illegal. Including the use of drugs or alcohol or committing a crime such as stealing or vandalism. Similar to the bullet above, no organization should encourage any of their members to be violating laws or requiring them to do any action that would lead them to violate laws.
Anything that places a member in physical danger or in jeopardy of losing their life. No one should ever be doing anything that would cause anyone to intentionally be put in physical danger or could cause them to lose their life. Places severe emotional stress upon a member. Hazing is not always physical, it is psychological too. The new member or intake process should be a time of learning and meeting new people. It should not cause undue stress on anyone. Requires a member to be present at activities for unreasonable amounts of time. While joining a fraternity or sorority is a time commitment, you should not be expected to be committing to anything unreasonable. You still need to have plenty of time to commit to academics, sleep, eat, bathe, visit friends and family, and do other things you enjoy. No organization, no matter how much you love it or want to be a member, should take away from any of your normal activities. Requires an unreasonable amount of time commitments per week to member activities. Similar to above, you should still be able to maintain your regular life outside of your organization. A typical amount of hours to commit to an organization weekly would be around 3 to 4. If you're in a leadership position or are planning for a big event, that number might be closer to 10. But if you are being asked to commit to more than that, that could be a red flag. Requires members to meet with or learn insignificant information about other members in order to be initiated, continue with the new member or intake process, learn a leadership position, or others. This is another example that shows that it isn't only new members or interests that can get hazed. You may be asked to learn about your local and national history, founders, values, etc. But no one should be asked to memorize the names of each of your active members' grandparents, or the first car they drove, or their favorite color. Knowing this information does not prove someone is a good member, and they should not be expected to know or memorize any information that is insignificant to the process. Again, this information is in no way all-inclusive. We could have 50 slides on examples and still not cover it all.
Please, if you have questions, ask. We are more than willing to have a conversation with you about your experience or how to help build brotherhood and sisterhood without the use of hazing activities.
If you ever do experience hazing or hear of hazing happening, please report it. We strive to make the UAB FSL community a safe place for everyone, and hazing has no place here. Listed here are ways you can report hazing. If you choose to report anonymously, please make sure to include all details because we cannot follow up with individuals who do report anonymously.
Let's now talk about who is required to report hazing. You may think that only the person who experienced hazing is required to report. There are many more people involved that have a duty to report hazing, in addition to the person who experienced it. The person who committed the hazing, the person who knew about it beforehand but didn't stop it, the person who heard about it after the fact, the person who observed the hazing, regardless of whether or not they participated.
If you're wondering if some of the things you may experience could be considered hazing, we want you to ask yourself some of these questions to help you determine the answer. Am I doing anything illegal? Am I being asked to keep these activities a secret? Would we get in trouble if a UAB administrator walked past and saw us? Does my participation in this activity violate my values or those of my organization? Would I feel comfortable participating in this activity if my parents were watching? Are we humiliating anyone with this activity? Is this causing emotional or physical distress to myself or others? If a video of this activity were shared on social media or the news, would we get in trouble or feel terrible about it? If the answer to any of these questions is yes, please rethink the activity you are doing or your participation in the activity.
Finally, we also want to make you aware of the consequences of false reporting. On this slide are both the UAB Student Code of Conduct policy and the Alabama state law. As you see in the pulled out sections, if your intent is to deceive or mislead, or you knowingly make a false report, you can be found in violation of UAB's policies and Alabama law. Making a false report is not funny, and reports should only be made with factual information.
Our next conversation will surround alcohol responsibilities and how you can stay safe yourself and help to keep others safe as well. This first slide is information about the UAB medical amnesty policy. Again, we've taken out some of the most important pieces of the policy for you. On the left, it says that students are encouraged to make responsible decisions and to seek medical attention in serious or life-threatening situations that result from alcohol consumption. At the bottom, it says that if a student is so intoxicated that they are unable to be awakened, letting that person sleep it off is not a reasonable alternative to getting them the necessary medical help. The purpose of this policy is to get people help when they are in need. Too many times we have seen young people and many fraternity and sorority members be left to sleep off the alcohol they have consumed. And too often, those people have gone to sleep and never woken up. No one at UAB wants that to happen to anyone. So this policy is encouraging you to help people who need help from alcohol intoxication.
On this slide, we have a continuation of the UAB policy and how it works. At the top, it states that if a student is seeking medical attention on behalf of themselves or someone else who is experiencing an alcohol-related emergency, will not be subjected to disciplinary action through a UAB student housing or the UAB Student Code of Conduct, unless that student has also violated other university policies. What this portion means is that if you call UAB police to help another student, you will not be in trouble if you are also drinking underage. You may be in violation if you are also harming the student or not complying with officers. On the left side, it states that the student must do in order to receive the amnesty from the policy violation. One example is to take an alcohol education course or alcohol assessment. If the student chooses not to do what is assigned to them, they may receive additional penalties through the student conduct process. The graphic here shows all the states in the U.S. that have enacted statewide medical amnesty laws, often called the 911 Lifeline Law. As you can see, Alabama does have a medical amnesty law.
The next two slides have information regarding Alabama's 911 Lifeline Law. It is very similar to UAB's, but again, we pulled out the most important parts. At the top, it says that if the individual calls for help, even if they were consuming alcohol underage, they will not be prosecuted for possession or underage drinking. At the bottom, it indicates that this also applies to controlled substances. So if you are also under the influence or in possession of a controlled substance, this law is in place to encourage you to seek help for yourself or others. The second part of this law is also important to understand. In order to receive amnesty from the law, you must do all of these things. Act in good faith that you are the first person to call for help. What this means is that you truly believe you are the first person to call 911. You can't remember to call 911 to take advantage of the law if you already know someone else called 911. Use your own name when contacting authorities. If you are asked to identify yourself, you must do so truthfully. You must also remain with the individual needing medical assistance until help arrives. Make sure to stay with the person in case other needs or issues arise. Remember, you must do all of these things in order to take advantage of the amnesty law in Alabama. If you call for help and do not do all of these, you could be prosecuted as well. These laws and policies are intended to encourage people to get help for others when they need it.
Some of our organizations also have medical amnesty policies at the national level as well. The next few slides are of the ones we were able to find, but may not be included for all organizations whose policies are not published online. The first two we have are Delta Sigma Phi and Alpha Sigma Phi. Next, we have Kappa Delta, Phi Gamma Delta, and Sigma Chi. You'll see that Sigma Chi calls theirs a Good Samaritan policy. They all encourage the same behavior, call for help. If you are a member of these organizations, read through your policy to familiarize yourself with it. Finally, the North American Interfraternity Conference, or NIC, which is an umbrella organization for over 50 fraternities, expects all of their member organizations to adopt a medical Good Samaritan policy, which was projected to be implemented by September 1st, 2018. If your organization's name is on the right side of the screen, it means that your organization is a member of the NIC, and your organization should, in theory, have a medical Good Samaritan, medical amnesty, or 911 Lifeline policy. If it hasn't been mentioned here, please check with your advisor and regional or national representatives.
Finally, let's talk about what could be considered an organization event. This is helpful for you to know because you can help lead your chapter to being part of a safe community. These next examples will give you an idea of what might be considered a chapter event, which will be useful for you and your chapter in planning different types of events. If an event is considered risky or a potential violation of policies, these examples are what the university and your headquarters will use to determine if what occurred was a chapter event. Events can be considered organization events if most of the attendees are members of the organization, guests were invited by members of the organization, the event was talked about in a chapter meeting, chapter group chat, or other form of social media, the event was advertised as a chapter event, the event was posted on a chapter calendar, whether public or private, the event was hosted at a location where members live, even if it was not an official chapter location. The event was financed by the chapter or by multiple members pooling their money together. Officers have prior knowledge of the event. And guests are under the impression that it is associated with the chapter. So they think, I'm going to the X fraternity or sorority party. If you or your chapter ever has any questions about putting on an event and wanting to do so safely and within the guidelines of UAB and your organization's policies, don't hesitate to reach out. We're happy to walk you through planning a safe event for everyone. One final slide on organization events. If you're ever confused if something may be considered an organization event, just remember this one saying. If it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. What this means is, if most attendees are members of the organization, and all the cars outside belong to members of the organization, and guests think they're going to an event hosted by the organization, it's an organization event.
And finally, thank you for participating and helping us to make the UAB FSL community both fun and safe. Here's our contact information again if you need to reach out to us. Thanks again.